The Fremen, once having established themselves in Arrakis, still had their Zinsunni beliefs, and part of that belief was obedience to a single authority figure. This position was not one earned easily. It would give you a title of Naib, and with this you would have to follow the group's notion of what a leader was. Perhaps, should you fail that definition and the overall community or Sietch lose their faith in you, then you will be challenged by another. But when they were the leader and supported, their authority was supreme. To the Fremen, Shai-Hulud was the spirit of Arrakis. They were both the bane and the boon of the planet. They could eat a man who walked with rhythm, or they could transport members of your Sietch across the desert. They also play a vital role in Fremen rites. For example, a worm drowned in water will produce the water of life, which, having been converted by a Reverend Mother, became a powerful narcotic, and this was used in Tau orgies, and we will come back to that a little later. So from a certain view, they kill and take in the spirit or essence of their god. So we get this contradiction again with the sandworms and with the Fremen, who are in awe of them, but also drowned and eat of them, or in another way, they would question authority, but also destroy the figure that brings that, as the leaders can be followed and also killed and replaced. So it's that similar cycle with both the sandworms and the Naib. This can be said to spring from how they believe that forces around them simply existed and could affect your lives, but they didn't care. They just existed. There's something untouchable, elemental about them. So to explain that a little clearer, so if Shai-Hulud killed a Fremen, then it could be said that it was his will, or it is just the way things are, an acceptance of the danger perhaps from the lives they live. Now they did see value in life as well, it wasn't nihilistic. They added value to and meaning to their lives by focusing on what they could do for the Sietch. It was the identity of the Sietch that was more important to them than the overall Fremen as a culture on Arrakis. And for what they did, the Sietch provided back, giving an individual an extended family. As the Dune Encyclopedia tells it, the Sietch demanded and received great loyalty from each of its members. It gave them a place in the world. If you committed some act and was banished from the Sietch, you stripped yourself of likely both your life and your cultural identity. The Sietch as a group shaped people's behaviour. What furthered the good of the group was encouraged, and there was no room for the uninformed. The Sietch as a group and its members provided answers as yes or no, because there was no room for maybe when it came to survival. If an outsider was allowed to join them, one thing that was considered was the burden they would place on the group's reserves, but in addition, also what that individual could add. So, Paul Atreides is a good example. When he kills Jamis, he eliminated that person and Jamis's burden on the Sietch, and then replaced it with himself. And of course, he also took on the responsibilities of Jamis's wife, Hara, and their children, so he meets both criteria. And now, as promised, we return to the Tau of the Sietch. Another term that makes things clearer is the sense of oneness of the Sietch, the unity in their identity and community. Each Sietch had a reservoir where all water from them was stored, and there also was stored the water of the dead. This was a show of respect for those gone, and for example, dishonoured Fremen's water would carry that person's stigma and would not be added to the overall amount the Sietch had access to. So in a way, the Sietch preserved all members of itself through this, both living and dead, because the water would be drank by the Fremen, but every drink of it would also contribute to it in the same way eventually, when they in turn passed away and gave their water and life back to the tribe. So there was a oneness with every member of the Sietch, so by taking the water you took part in the Tau. Now the Tau orgy of oneness also brought them into a physical oneness. It showed them the ways of their fathers, a bond with the past, present and future of the tribe, and you could only get this by being part of the Sietch. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and friends, now I turn this over to you. Comment down below with any thoughts you have on the video or things on the channel, anything you'd like to say about Dune. Let me know your thoughts.